What's up, guys? Open Ice Hits with Scotty2 Hockey. Let's talk Habs. I hope you like the new format. I have a new phone. I hope the mic picks up the sound well. Hope you like the wall of Habs that I've constructed in the background. But anyways, I'm not going to talk about my wall of Habs in this year's video. What I'd like to talk about in this video is this year's draft and who the Montreal Canadiens could be taking in the first round. I've already done 2 videos on potential picks. I think they could possibly take Jack Quinn, or I think they could possibly take Howell. And the third guy I think they could possibly take in this year's draft is Cole Perfetti. One thing I have to mention about this year's draft, though, is outside of the top 10, it isn't as deep as previous years. It isn't as deep as 1920. It isn't as deep as 2019, excuse me, and it isn't as deep as 2018. So Montreal Canadiens should want to be drafting inside of the top 10 for the first round, and a very, very talented player that they could potentially get, and I think they could have their eye on, even though they're loaded at center, is Cole Perfetti. And this is what I had to write about Cole Perfetti. Even though Montreal is loaded with players and prospects at the center position, I still think a player they could be eyeing for this year's draft is a super talented center out of the OHL, the second leading scorer overall in the OHL, Cole Perfetti, and he was also the leading scorer in the OHL in his rookie year, the leading rookie scorer. The 18-year-old who plays for the Saginaw Spirit is projected by most people to go between 4th and 7th pick in this year's draft. I've seen some people put him higher, some experts, some analysts, but the average is between 4 and 7 when it comes to this guy. But if he were to fall to a position where Montreal could draft him in the first round, I could see Bergevin definitely snatching him up. There is a ton to like about Perfetti's game, and I think his style of play would fit well with this current Habs team. Perfetti isn't an overall big player. He's not small by any means, but he's not a guy that's I think is going to be a dominating physical force in the league. So I think he fits well with that aspect with his team, but Montreal does need to add some size as well. But this is a very talented player they could get in the first round. They could work on size in the other rounds, or they could pick up a bigger player through a trade or something like that, add some size that way, because you don't want to pass up on a player like this if he's available. And I think Montreal is probably going to pick around 8th. If he's available at 8th, this could be a very, very good pick that I think would fit well with the current Habs team. Perfetti has excellent puck skills. He can handle the puck like it's on a string. He truly can. You watch this guy out there, he's a magician with the puck. His vision and movement and execution are on another level for a kid his age. His vision and execution and his hockey IQ is like a guy who's been in the NHL for 20 years. Even though he's playing in the OHL, you can just see he's so comfortable with the puck. He's so comfortable on the ice. He knows what he's going to do before it happens. He has it all planned out. He's one of those guys that can see what it happens before it happens and make it happen. It's amazing. I really do like this guy. Out of all 4 of the guys I'm mentioning that Montreal could draft in my 4 videos I'm going to do, this is the guy above all I would like to see them draft. He can turn on a dime and evade a check and create distance between him and the defender. His offensive arsenal is very similar to Nick Suzuki. He has the ability to slow down the play around him and create something out of nothing, drawing defenders to him, which in turn creates openings for his teammates to receive one of his laser-sharp passes. His shot is quick and accurate, and though he isn't the fastest player, he could work on his speed. He is definitely adequate to play at the NHL level, in my opinion. Perfetti could be a guy who in this year's draft, Perfetti could be a guy who in a year or 2 after this year's draft, with some development and with some physical growth and work on his defense, on the defensive end of his game, could be a super, super talented rookie some year in the NHL and a future star for the Montreal Canadiens. Most experts project him to be a future top 6 forward and a top 2 center in the NHL. He's 18 years old. He's 5'11", so he's just creeping about 6 foot. Now, when it comes to his weight, you look at him on the ice, he doesn't look like a very big player. Hockey DB has him listed at 172 pounds, and Elite Prospects has him listed at 185 pounds. So that's a pretty big discrepancy. So I'm just going to meet it in the middle. I'm going to guess Cole Perfetti is 180 pounds. When you watch him on the ice, he's not short, but he doesn't look like a very big player. He looks a little bit lanky, so I would like to see him get a bit of size that way. Like I say, I don't think he's a guy that's immediately going to come in and play for Montreal. He's only 18 years old. I think if they draft him, he's a very, very good project. You put him in the AHL for a year, maybe 2 years, let him grow a bit physically, let him add some muscle, add some size, work on his speed, which, by the way, isn't that bad, but could be a little bit better. You can tell he can step it up a notch if he really wanted to. This guy could be a future superstar for the Montreal Canadiens. Now, I know they're loaded at center. I know it could be a risk taking another center. They already have issues with where they're going to put some of their centers to now. But a player of this caliber, you can't let him slip past you if you have the chance to draft him at the 8th spot, in my opinion. He shoots left. He was born in Ontario. Now, this is kind of interesting. In 18-19 for the Saginaw Spirits, he had 63 games played, 37 goals, 37 assists, and 74 points. And then that year in the playoffs, he was amazing in the playoffs. He had 8 goals and 6 assists and 14 points. But unfortunately, he came up against Nick Suzuki's Guelph Storm. And even though Saginaw had a commanding lead, Nick Suzuki and Nate Schnarr and Isaac Ratcliffe put the Guelph Storm on their back, absolutely stormed back, no pun intended, and defeated the Saginaw Spirit, sending Cole Perfetti and his team out of the playoffs. And I'm sure Perfetti wasn't happy with that. I would have loved to see what he would have been able to do in this year's OHL playoffs, because you look at his regular season numbers, what a jump. What an upgrade in this guy's game. He was already the leading rookie in the OHL. In 2018-2019, that 74 points was best amongst all rookies. He was the best goal scorer, and he was the best points-wise. And then you look at the jump he took the next year. The development is going excellent with this guy. In 19-20 for the Saginaw Spirits, in 61 games played, he had 37 goals, so the same amount of goals, but this is where he really stepped it up. 74 assists. Double the amount of assists, literally, and you had 111 points. That's a 37-point jump. Very, very good development there. Very big jump. And in 1920, the same year, at the Hlinka Gretzky Cup, the under-18 Hlinka Gretzky Cup, in 5 games played, he had 8 goals, 4 assists, and 12 points. And even though his team won silver, in the semifinal game, they had to put Cole Perfetti in for 3 shootout goals. He scored all 3 shootout goals to get them to the final game. He couldn't put him on his back and get him the gold medal, but they wouldn't have even been in the finals if it wasn't for Cole Perfetti. He scored 3 goals in that shootout that year in the Hlinka Gretzky Cup. He was amazing. Absolutely amazing. He's a really, really good player, and I think the Montreal Canadiens, if he's available at the 8th spot above all the players I've mentioned, should jump on this guy, should take this guy. If you have to trade a Ryan Poehling, if you have to trade one of the centers you have in your farm, in amongst your prospects, do it. Bring in Cole Perfetti, because as much as I love Ryan Poehling, I think his game is good. I do not think he's a bust. I made a video saying there's no way I think Poehling's going to be a bust. I think he's maybe going to be a depth player, but he's going to be a good player in the NHL one day. He doesn't have the potential Cole Perfetti has. He just truly doesn't. Unless you want a defensive, bigger player, a bigger depth center, that's what you're going for, then yes, take Poehling over him. Take Jake Evans over him. But if you can get the chance to draft Cole Perfetti and move one of those players, if that's what you got to do to draft this guy, do it. But that's just my personal opinion. You can disagree with me if you want. So that's the guy I think Montreal Canadiens should take in this year's draft. I'm going to do another video on another player I think they should take in this year's draft. And it's going to be another really, really high caliber player that could easily slip to the 8th spot. But out of all 4 of the players I've mentioned, by far, Perfetti is the one I would love to see the most. His offensive skills are just so dynamic. You watch this guy play, you watch how he moves with the puck, you watch his skill on the ice, his on-ice vision, his ability to be coming in and all of a sudden turn on a dime and whip a pass over to one of his players that you couldn't even see was there. You weren't even expecting him to be there. And all of a sudden that player has the puck on their stick and they're coming in for a wide open breakaway or they're getting a shot on a wide open net. Perfetti is a beast like that, and I think he would be really good with a player like Nick Suzuki, Max Domi, especially Brendan Gallagher. You put him on a line with Brendan Gallagher, he'd be feeding Gallagher flat out with beautiful passes. Now, we look at some of his draft projections. NHL Central Scouting has him going at 5th overall. So if he goes at 5th, unless Montreal does well in the lottery, if there even is a lottery, I'm not 100% sure what's going on this year with the draft. I haven't looked into it that much. I'm going to look into it a bit better. I'm not sure what's going on with the lottery system. I need to do my research on that for sure. I'm more focused on the prospects that Montreal could take in the first round this year so far. But the projections, NHL Central Scouting has him at 5. Elite Prospects has him at 6. McKean's Hockey has him at 8th. HockeyProspects.com is the lowest ranking he has that I could find. They have him at 4th, and ISS Hockey has him going at number 6. The highest I've seen him go, I believe it was on NHL.com, one of the analysts had him going 9th. That's the highest I've seen anybody projecting this guy go. So he could be a very, very good pickup for the Montreal Canadiens, and that's another potential prospect the Montreal Canadiens could draft in this year's draft. So anyways, guys, if you haven't seen him, if you haven't checked him out, go check out his highlight videos. Go type in Cole Perfetti on YouTube. See what this kid's made of and let me know what you think. Feel free to leave a comment. Of course, have a great day. This is Open Ice Hits with Scotty 2 Hockey. Let me know what you think of the new background, the new style. If you can, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. We just recently passed 500. A big shout out as well to Buys Breaks. He's a guy who I dealt with the other day. I sold him a Cale Makar autograph. He's from Newfoundland. He only lives down the road to me. He just started a YouTube channel. It's a hockey card break channel, so if you're into that, check him out. That's Buys Breaks. BYS Breaks. Check him out. He's going to have a great channel. I've dealt with Kyle. I've met him in person. Seems like he has an excellent personality and would be good for YouTube for sure. But if you can, as well, give me a sub, give me a like, and have a great day. This is Open Ice Hits with Scotty 2 Hockey. Let's get to 600, folks. Over and out.